The following program is paid for by the concerned clergy. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Urban One Incorporated, Radio One, or any of its subsidiary companies. The concerned clergy invites you to their weekly town hall meeting on Praise, AM 1310, 95.1 FM.
Well, there's certainly some legislative items that everyone needs to be aware of, especially when we're speaking to our women. They're trying to take our women back to pre-1920, pre-1974, in which they couldn't even open bank accounts. And on tonight, we honor the Reverend Jesse Jackson as well. But we invite you to be part of the conversation. You can call into the station at 317-480-1310. But let's begin our program honoring Reverend Jackson.
I understand when nobody knows your name. I understand when you have no name. I understand. I wasn't born in the hospital. Mama didn't have insurance. I was born in the bed at house. I really do understand. Born in a 3-room house, bathroom in the backyard, slop job by the bed, no hot and cold running water. I understand. Wallpaper used for decoration? No, for a windbreaker. I understand. I'm a working person's person. That's why I understand you, whether you're black or white. I understand work. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I had a shovel programmed for my hand. My mother, a working woman. So many days she went to work early, with runs in her stockings. She knew better, but she rolled runs in her stockings so that my brother and I could have matching socks and not be laughed at school.
Pastor Greene, good evening. We just heard a little bit about just kind of where Reverend Jackson's roots were, and we're going to speak more on his life a little bit later in the program, but I wanted to open up at least just a reminder that, we're now celebrating his life as he's gone home to be with the Lord. And as we're here in Black History Month, he is certainly one that has contributed so much to our Black history.
Without a doubt, he's one of the great warriors of our time, and he served faithfully. He certainly made a difference. He merits all the respect we can give to him and him and his family during this period of time, because he, in my opinion, his running for president paved the way for President Obama to win. That there's some people who paved the way and opened the doors. His work speaks for itself, and he is certainly to be regarded and respected for the things he's contributed to our community and done for all of our people, our Black people, and really just people who were struggling, because as he was making that statement, he could identify with everybody who was willing to work.
Well, we're going to begin our show with him, as we just did, but we're also going to end speaking on Reverend Jackson. But Pastor Greene, I want to get into some issues that are really pertinent right now as we are looking at legislative session, bills that are being reviewed, being debated, being talked about. And there's several that are very I will say concerning, but one we've not talked about is the SAVE Act. And that's a bill that is, I would say, when we look at going back in time, if you will, it's not just Black folks that will be disenfranchised with their voting capabilities and voting rights, but we're looking at a lot of women that could possibly lose their voting rights as well.
Oh, without a doubt, that's a bill that's being discussed in DC as we sit here tonight. That would say, hey, you got to prove your identity. And the reason you're talking about the impact on women, there's the part of this act is, okay, you got a birth certificate, but maybe you got married, so your name changed. You got to bring documentation to support all that. And maybe you got a divorce in there. Then you got to bring the evidence of that. And all of that documentation is needed to register to vote and to vote. They're doing this under the premise that people are voting that shouldn't be voting. So they're making you prove these things. And the reason women are impacted more than men is that many times women change their names and when they get married to their husband's name. And so therefore now that name doesn't match the birth certificate. And some people feel like you shouldn't be able to vote because now it doesn't match. And then if you do, then all these things need to match. So you got to go prove that you got married. And this is, and say, oh yeah, I got married on this date. So you got to bring the paperwork to make that match up. And if you went through a divorce, then that's got to match up. And sometimes getting some of those documents can be challenging, especially if you didn't just stay in the same state or city all your life. And that some of that can be difficult if you were married in one state. Heaven forbid you're a military person and you moved around. So those things are in play. It's, for me, it's just another ploy of voter suppression that we're under. And then here locally, there were people who, our own legislative group, slid a bill in to look at reducing early voting and cutting that down to 16 weeks, right? No, from 28 to 16?
I'm not sure how many. I've not seen that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're trying to reduce it. However, I'm not sure exactly where.
It's not weeks. It's 28 days to 16 days. So it's roughly cutting that in half. I said weeks, it's days. Again, to voter suppression, because that means there's going to be longer lines for the days that you do have it. So there's, again, this is an attack on our democracy, on engagement. They want to limit it. They're making it challenging. And the crazy part of it is they're not even saying if these things continue to pass, Reverend Alexander, they want them to go in effect for the May primary. So they're not saying November. They're not saying we'll do this in 2027. They're trying to do this immediately. So clearly they're trying to have an immediate put their thumb on the scale by really deciding who can vote and reducing that window of when you can vote to help produce a certain outcome.
Well, just think about this, as you just stated, the attempt is really to get, this legislation passed and enforced immediately. Can you imagine what the strain would be on folks that now have to, quote unquote, prove their citizenship, then have to get passports, as well? What's that getting ready to do with the system? When it comes to the U.S. Customs or whoever gives the passports out, what's that getting ready to do to that system? And then every other locale for the people you just, described, the ladies that have gotten married, name changes and all of that. Because keep in mind, if, a lot of folks are transit, meaning you move from one state to another or came from one place to another. As a matter of fact, Melania Trump, I wonder how she would be able, to navigate through this right now, to be perfectly honest with you, Pastor. Would she be able to navigate through this system if this legislation was passed as, being able to provide all those documents? I'm not sure. And it's really, here, people just moving state to state. They're also talking about, in order to retrieve the documents you need, to make it even harder to do that. So you can't just go online and get them. They're going to make it where you got to go in person. You got to show your ID in person. You got to smile in their face in person. That stuff as well is part of what they're trying to do in this effort.
Yeah, I mean, and do you have the staff to even do this? I'm not sure the state and any other processes, whether that's the health department, et cetera, where a lot of these people are working with bare minimum staffs to say, okay, can you have handled the onslaught of hundreds or thousands of people coming to get various documents that they're going to need to prove this? Go find my marriage certificate. I got to go get that, or go through the passport situation. I got to get my birth certificate now. Going through all that stuff, especially if you're already working, it's going to be challenging and difficult.
What and once again, it's taking, I mean, think about this. It's when you look at not just civil rights, but when you look at the strides that we made in certain rights and privileges just over the last, a little bit over 100 years, because when you really look at it, women just were able to vote in 1920 across the nation. So, it hasn't been that long. And so here we are looking at a point in which that right is, once again, in jeopardy. And, it's interesting trying to prove citizenship and things like that when everything that you have to obtain, like a driver's license and all of that, you have all of that documentation you got to prove at that point. So who's going to, carry around passports anyway?
Exactly. And then so many of these people won't find out till they go to vote. They're going to be standing, getting ready to vote, thinking they can vote. They've been voting in all these other elections. When somebody's going to say to them, hey, we need this, and this, it's going to throw things completely off.
So where exactly are we at here in Indiana? Can you, you hearing exactly, which direction our legislators are even, I'll put it like this: are even the Republican legislators thinking about their spouses and what it will put them through, or anything like that? Something that says at least they're paying attention to the people around them.
What we know is our governor wants to be in line with the president, and so in this week, sliding that bill in, that language into a bill about elections that the bill originally didn't have anything to do with elections, but saying, hey, here's what we want to do. We want to take the early voting days down from 28 to 16. Well, unsubstantiated. So obviously they're playing along with the voter suppression. This is what we need. This is what the president wants. And so we're caught up in that. And so that Republican majority is saying, okay, we're going along with this. We're going to, quote unquote, protect the election. And keep in mind, we just went through the piece where they were challenging, okay, candidates, you're going to run. Now you got to resubmit all your paperwork because, this person wasn't deputized to notarize, et cetera. All of, right before the deadline, 2 days before. All that again is, can we deter it? Can we slow it down? Can we prevent it? That is part of the plan.
It's really interesting when you look at it, because I think that's why it's more important that people understand the importance of having that voting plan. You always refer to is really being thoughtful now, making sure, first of all, you check your the voter ID site or voter Indiana portal, make sure that everything's fine there, that you're registered, make sure you haven't fallen out some voter roll, and then have a plan. you know, for a lot of folks, you know, to avoid some of the nonsense on election day, well, plan to vote in May. Don't wait till, you know, the general election. Go ahead and plan to vote in May. Have this plan in for May, but make sure that you know that if you need to, you know, early vote, that you're sending the documentation so you can get what you need for absentee ballots and all of that stuff. Make sure you're doing all of that. You know, once again, have a plan. If, you know, you want to avoid all the nonsense on voting day, on election day, that's one way to do that.
You best have a plan, because, you know, between ICE, between potentially having the National Guard people there, people need to say, what's my plan for voting, and go and do that, and be like, that's what I'm going to be doing. That's what I'm going to be committed to, so I can be on top of it. Else you'll be deterred by it, because there's going to be so many hoops they're going to try to make you jump through. So it'll be far easier to, you know, have a clear plan. You're going to be hearing more about, as I was with some Mad Voters and other organizations, you know, we're pushing this idea of don't vote alone. So, you know, when you go, take somebody with you, make that part of your plan, so that they're witnesses to your experiences, etc., and you can help witness somebody else's. So don't go alone. You go, you take a friend, a family member with you. That will be, in my opinion, the best way, the safest way, and you probably have fewer issues that way as opposed to going by yourself.
That's actually a good idea, just to make sure, because you never know what's going to be happening at these polling sites. Probably will not see as much, you know, here in May for our primary, but certainly expect with the general election that there's all kind of shenanigans that, you know, all over the place. And not only that, you know, even the winners, you know, we may not even know who they are, because they may snatch.
Yes.
You know, we may not even let them, you know, there's no telling. May not let them report on it, you know, may not even let them vote. You never know what's going to happen, you know, coming up. But still, we need to have a plan. Now, there's another bill out there that I know you've been paying attention to. I think it's SB 285, the homeless bill, criminalizing homeless. Where are we at with that?
That bill actually passed out of committee today, 8-5. So it's moving forward. It'll be down to its last reading and then going to the governor. It criminalizes homelessness. It makes it a crime to be on our streets, to be poor and be homeless. Up to I think it's a $500 fine, Class C misdemeanor. So it's problematic in terms of the law itself, and it's a tough place to be when you know, when you're going to criminalize people who are poor. So, but that bill passed today. They had a hearing this afternoon. Obviously, there were people who testified against the bill, but yet it still passed our legislators 8-5. 4 Democrats and 1 Republican voted against it, is my understanding, and then 8 Republicans voted in favor of it. And so now it goes before the full House, and then it'll be up for the governor's signature. Barring just a massive change of minds and hearts, especially of the supermajority, this will go into effect July 1st of this year.
And that's, you know, one of the things you really, you know, have been speaking to is, you know, how some of the legislation really isn't anything geared towards, you know, the care of people, you know, how it's insensitive. And this is, you know, just an example of that. Let's go ahead. We got to go to our commercial break. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can call into the radio station. The number is 317-480-1310. Once again, 317-480-1310. You're listening to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show on Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM Indies Inspiration Station.
If you are feeling stressed or overwhelmed, please join us in this prayer, which is prayed by many religions and has been translated into thousands of different languages. The Lord is my shepherd, so I shall not want. God directs me to lie down in green pastures and leads me beside still waters. My soul is restored. I am led on the path of righteousness for his name's sake, and even though I may walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I have no fear of evil. For God is with me. Thy rod and staff comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord, now and forevermore. Amen. Just a little needed reminder.
Agnes was in deep trouble with the IRS.
I owed the IRS a lot of money.
She found out about Optima Tax Relief.
They guaranteed me that they were going to help me out the best that they can. And they did.
Optima stopped the IRS.
Optima Tax took care of everything.
Are you in deep trouble with the IRS? You might want to listen to Agnes.
I would refer Optima Tax Relief to anyone.
Call Optima right now for your free consultation. Call 800-811-7033. 800-811-7033.
Optima Tax Relief.
For details, visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Listen each Monday morning, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. to the Ask Pastor Wright broadcast on Praise Indy, AM 1310 and 95.1 FM, hosted by Pastor Jay Wright. You will be blessed.
A new career offers new beginnings and unlimited opportunities at Eskenazi Health. Our patients are treated with compassion and skill, and Eskenazi Health is looking for professionals who share our mission. Enjoy excellent benefits and competitive pay. Learn more at eskenazihealth.edu/careers.
Ron had a tax problem he just couldn't handle on his own.
I owed the IRS taxes for over 5 years, but I didn't have any money to pay the taxes.
Those years cost him dearly.
Most of it was fees and interest. It was horrible.
Ron finally called in the pros.
I called Optima Tax Relief, and boy, am I happy I did.
The leading tax resolution firm, Optima, is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. They've resolved over $1 billion for their clients. Ron was overjoyed.
They settled my account with IRS. I was ecstatic. They are a lifesaver. They are. I am so happy.
Take Ron's advice and call Optima now for a free consultation.
Yeah, don't do like I did and wait. Call Optima Tax Relief. Do it now. You'll be ecstatic like me.
Call 800-685-5688. 800-685-5688. 800-685-5688.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit info kit. 800-572-3344. That's 800-572-3344.
Well, you can catch the replay. We have a Substack, the Concerned Clergy Substack. That's on the Progressive Indiana Network, so you can catch that, and that will replay on tomorrow. Once again, the Progressive Indiana Network. So you can catch it on your favorite podcast station. Once again, welcome back to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show. I'm Reverend Tony Alexander, and we have our president with us, President Pastor David W. Greene Sr., and we've been just kind of speaking on some of the things that are going on here, in Indiana as well as across the nation, where we're looking at, the SAVE Act and some other items, and we invite you to be part of the conversation. You can call in. The radio station phone number is 317-480-1310. Once again, 317-480-1310. We have Imhotep that's on the line. Let's go ahead and bring him in.
Good afternoon. Good evening. Good evening, brother.
Well, good evening, sir. How are you?
How you doing? Good. And thank you, both of you, fine gentleman for touching on more attacks on the people. You know, it's awful funny, a party that claims to be so religious and want to claim to be so Christian and stuff like that. You know, they practice everything other than what fundamental or even Orthodox or even Reformed Christians do. They don't practice any tenet at all. The homeless bill, the SAVE Act, the SNAP bill, you know, with the ICE, just the National Guard bill, everything. It's thoroughly anti-people. They haven't passed one bill to make the lives of Indiana citizens, as far as Indiana legislators, better, or on the federal level to make American citizens better. And you know what's so tragic? And this is coming from James Baldwin. I have a lot of Baldwin books. And Baldwin talked about, if you really want going to see the change that we need to see to have a better, more perfect union, it's going to take white people who come and snap out of some funk they're in, because they don't give a care if they don't get anything. Donald Trump and his family have enriched themselves $4 billion in 1 year. In 1 year. Getting jets like Qatar and Jared Kushner cutting deals with Saudi Arabia over there. Now they got a plan to rebuild Gaza and all this stuff. And not one bill. He bragged about some stuff coming from overtime and the big beautiful bill and extra money in the taxes. I read through about 100 comments from people, and all of them who said they already filed their taxes, and many who said they've done overtime said they end up paying more. They haven't gotten anything. They didn't get anything extra. Nothing for the people. And white people are happy. A majority, the 74 million that voted for him, are happy with not getting anything tangible. And that has got to be, that's been studied by a Pew Research Center, Harvard, and various others. LBJ's statement back in the 60s about picking their pockets and they don't even know it. You know, it's like they don't give a care. We keep trying to fight to make this country and states-wise, all over the states, except, you know, the blue states that are doing what they're supposed to do, like Virginia. And I'm so happy to see what Virginia doing right now. I mean, they're not playing in Virginia. Massachusetts is on their way. Arizona is teetering. It's bluish to purple, bluish. And in Georgia's purple. We need some more. We need some more of them out of there in Georgia. For the most part here, it's like they're sleeping. And they don't care if they don't get anything. They don't care if they don't. There's nothing tangible for them as long as they just look like they're part of the aristocracy and the plutocracy.
All right.
And they're not. Donald Trump will walk right past all of them. Mike Brown will walk right past them and wouldn't even say hi. But yet, you know, racism and misogyny is thick. Stephen A. Smith was ignorantly talking last night. I don't even want to get on that.
All right.
But it's just a shame. And as Christians, I'll finish. As ministers of the faith of Christianity, how do you communicate with them and ask them, how can you call yourselves Christian? I'm not a Christian. I've read the Bible many, many times. I studied it. I was a junior pastor back in the day. So how can they live with themselves? Not even mentioning the Epstein files. Just living, just the things they propose and the things they do to people, which they know are they have nothing to do with Christianity, but yet they proclaim it.
All right.
And
well, I mean, that's actually, you know, valid, you know, question. A lot of folks are asking that, but I'm not sure, Pastor, how you answer. I mean, you have to. I'll let you go ahead and go first on that.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, what I can say is I hope to bring a moral voice to these issues that are happening. Imhotep brought up some great points, and I think what is missing in the Capitol here in Indianapolis is that moral voice, that you got to shine some light on darkness. If you claim you're for the people, in which I do think that every one of these bills, one of the key questions is, well, how's this helping Hoosiers? If it's not helping Hoosiers, then we need to revisit it and see how you can adjust it or amend it where it helps Hoosiers. Otherwise, we're doing damage to Hoosiers, which we're continuing to see, unfortunately. And I think there's just a mean spirit. A lot of these people are mean-spirited. Their legislation is mean-spirited. And you got to turn the light on that darkness. And you can't continue to allow all that darkness to take place and not turn the light on. The biggest disinfectant for darkness is turn the light on, and that has to happen. I think that's critical. You know, anybody serving in that role, you got to be willing to do that. Otherwise, you become part of the darkness. And so you got to be willing to do that in this season.
Well, I would also, add to that, there needs to be an analysis, if you would, while you're talking about turning the light on to the darkness. I mean, just think about the whole premise of immigration as we've been hearing, over the last, 10 years, basically, with Trump. How it is that they are, taking money, they're taking jobs, they're taking housing, they're getting all these benefits. But here we are right now. What we're doing is we're building detention camps all across the country. That's costing money. We're putting people in there to run them. That's costing money. Then we're housing these folks, and guess what? They should be, if they're doing it right, they should be getting health care. That's costing money. They should, they should be getting food every day. That's costing money. So everything you complained about them getting, and when they were out here working, being productive, going to church, sending kids to schools, and just being members of society, what you complained about, now the government's paying for them to do it. It makes no sense.
It's not a good use of funding, right? I mean, you take an agency like ICE and the money that's being spent. I mean, I would suggest that there are better ways of spending our money, Reverend Alexander, that would bring benefits to America. I mean, because in any of this stuff, you only have so much money for resources. Do you want to spend the money that way, or would you want to spend the money another way and truly benefit Hoosiers and truly help people? So we have to begin to think about this. Wait a minute, this is not even wise financially, because we're going to say, well, we don't have money for this, that, and the other. Well, what happened to it? Well, we spending it on ICE. Well, did that make sense? With having officers grab a 5-year-old? Well, okay, well, is that a good use of our money? I mean, financially, does that make a lot of sense? And so we're going to snatch a 5-year-old out of school, or we're going to work to go into schools or other places. Is that a good use of our taxpayer dollars? Is that what you want to see when you've got some needs over here that need to be addressed? And so even economically, you can't make, morally and economically, you can say that this doesn't make sense when you turn the light on, begin to say, now hold it, make this make sense, because we only got so many resources regardless. Is this where you want them to be? I mean, even if you, like, they want to use IMPD, I'm trying to bring it down locally. They want IMPD to be a part of ICE. Well, do you want IMPD to protect the citizens and the issues going on in our community? Or you want to participate in an ICE raid going into somebody's school? Which one of them would you want to do? So because you can only remember, it was all designed to be supposed to be getting illegals. Okay, well, the 5-year-old ain't an illegal. I mean, what do you some of that stuff is clear overreach. It's clear overreach. It's like, okay, when we were first here in the other week in Hamilton County, man, they actually pulled up. They're a Muslim, but they were citizens. They happen to have all their paperwork in the car. But you're stopping these people, and it's costing money to do that. And they're not illegals. They're not people who have committed any crime. This all started with, we're going after the worst. And I was with a gentleman on today that's part of those type of systems, and he said really the worst. They're in DOC. When they get out of DOC, they get sent back to their countries as the first step. So he said there's not a lot of people who are in that boat, and said, hey, that money should be redirected to other places to keep, quote unquote, the community safer, versus, oh yeah, this is running around here and look for this person or that person who is a positive contributor to society. Go spend money to keep, quote unquote, the bad people off the streets for real, not just arbitrarily. Well, if you're black, if you brown, you might get pulled over. That is a part of stuff, and because all that costs money.
And let's keep in mind, and this is stuff you guys can look up on your own. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Bureau, they put out their own statistics that tell you that 73% of the folks that are in detention now don't have criminal records. So they definitely aren't criminals. So if they're not criminals, they can't be the worst of the worst either. But let's go to our last break. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, feel free to call in 317-480-1310, 317-480-1310. You're listening to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show on Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM, Indy's Inspiration Station.
Agnes was in deep trouble with the IRS.
I owed the IRS a lot of money.
She found out about Optima Tax Relief.
They guaranteed me that they were going to help me out the best that they can. And they did.
Optima stopped the IRS.
Optima Tax took care of everything.
Are you in deep trouble with the IRS? You might want to listen to Agnes.
I would refer Optima Tax Relief to anyone.
Call Optima right now for your free consultation. Call 800-569-4435. 800-569-4435.
Optima Tax Relief.
For details, visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Listen each Thursday evening to the Faith Center Church International, Jesus Inside Prison Ministry, where Dr. William and Evangelist Juanita Bumpus are your hosts from 6 to 6:30 p.m. You will be blessed.
Welcome back to the Concerned Clergy Radio Show. I'm Reverend Tony Alexander, and I'm joined by our president, Pastor David W. Greene Sr., and we invite you to be part of the conversation. Feel free to call in 317-480-1310. Once again, 317-480-1310. And as we were talking earlier, kind of want to close out that conversation. But I want people to know, if you have not heard, we've actually just had a death in the detention center up at Miami Correctional. That was reported, I believe it was today. So now, you have someone, and as I'm not sure, well, the name may be public, but I'm not sure what his criminal history is or any of that nature is. But now we have that, and we're seeing that across the country. We're seeing that conditions in these detention centers are not what they should be, and lawmakers that are trying to get in and do inspections, at least do walkthroughs and things like that, they're being hit with you've seen it across the news. You've seen some of them get arrested themselves and things like that, Mr. President. And that's kind of where we're at now. We're dealing with that here close to home.
It's close to home and going to be closer. You can rest assured that we'll be with Hamilton County, saying we're opening an ICE office. It will be at our doorsteps, Reverend Alexander. It'll be interesting to see how we, as a city and its leaders, respond.
Let's go ahead and bring in a caller. We got Linda that's on the line. Linda, good evening.
Good evening. I'm sorry. I didn't hear the beginning. I just heard a little bit. And I just wanted to call in, and I just wanted to ask, when the millions of people that was crossing over every month that I saw on TV, was that considered criminal?
No, not necessarily. I mean, there are legal ways to cross the border. So you can actually come in legally. You can come in. You can do that.
Come in legally, but they weren't coming in legally.
Well, who is they?
And they were coming.
Who's they?
All the millions that I saw coming across a lot of miles and miles of people.
Okay, well, are those the ones that are are those the ones that were being beaten in Minnesota and that are being detained here in Indiana? Are those the same ones you're talking about?
The people that's being beaten in Minnesota are the ones that's on the picket line who's doing things against the police or whatever. But the thing is, the illegals that crossed over the border, who's in our system, in your neighborhood, who's taken up all of the funding for, it should be funding for black people and funding for us and armies. It's being done.
Give me an example. Give me an example. Linda, give me an example.
They're not even a citizen.
Give me an example, Linda.
Linda,
give me an example of funding you didn't get that they got instead of you, that you deserved.
The funding, like for their babies, for their funding for their medical care.
So we don't have funding for that as Americans.
Free school that they get, that our ancestors paid. Our ancestors died and paid for us, black people, who helped form this country. Our ancestors paid for us to have a way to have food funding, whatever. These people just walked over, found millions a month, walked across the border, and they started demanding rights. I mean, this is my right to be here, my right to get some food, right to live in, right for you to take care of me. That's my right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your phone call, Linda. I appreciate you. That's very interesting thought, Mr. President.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems is the miscommunication that exists in our country. Because there are some of these benefits you can't even get unless you are an American citizen. This is just propaganda stuff that people put out. So these people who just, can see they were assuming they walked across illegal. They cannot go file for a benefit and receive it. That's the first thing. That's all misinformation that's touted from certain groups of people. The law never allowed for that to happen. You had to be an American citizen, and you had to prove that from the get-go. The other portion of that is when you look at decisions about, like right now, our FSSA director, Mitch Rowe, said, in 2025, I'm not giving out any CCDF vouchers. So black people are not getting a CCDF voucher because a Latino or a Haitian or a Chinese or somebody other group got one. They ain't getting one because Mitch Rowe, who serves at the request of the governor, said, I'm not giving out the vouchers. So when you have all that type of misinformation, it can lead to believing that, oh, I'm not getting this because of this other group. When if you go and get to the details of that, you can find out there is absolutely no truth in that. I mean, I follow a lot of this, so I definitely know here's what's required. You have to be a citizen. So if you're not a citizen, they ain't eligible no way. You didn't miss out on it. No citizen in America missed out, white, black, or whatever, because this person, quote unquote, you said was illegal, was here. Not on that. That's not the case. Now, it sounds good to scare people up, okay, but it's in terms of, well, we can have different opinions because everybody's got a right to one. We can only have different facts. And the facts is, most of the things that you mentioned, first requirement was to be an American citizen. You don't get it because you say, I want to have it. That didn't exist. That's not true. And many of the things we got in place right now, it is by the governor and this mean-spirited legislation they put in place. It has absolutely nothing to do with immigrants. You ain't getting it because you're not getting it because the governor and others have made a decision that they'd rather have a surplus and they'd rather cut your benefits. And so that's what's going to happen. It ain't got nothing to do with immigration. Cutting off SNAP didn't have nothing to do with immigration.
Well, and let's be clear, there is nothing now. They're touting all this great success with immigration. Right now, nobody can call in and say, here's what I just gained now that we've gotten rid of all these quote unquote immigrants, illegals, whatever you want to call them. You're not getting anything better for your schools. You're not getting anything better for your hospitals. You're not getting anything better for your roads. Matter of fact, they're still taking money from your child's mouths. They're taking money from all of that. You're getting nothing. And all you were complaining about is what somebody else was getting. And when they were getting, you were getting too. Guess what? For the most part, nobody's getting anything. Let's go ahead and go to Terry. Terry, good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Fine.
I just wanted to comment about what the lady was saying a few moments ago. Ma'am, I'm not sure if you realize, but in the history of what is considered the United States, Latino, Hispanic, and Native American persons were here long before African Americans and or European Americans, and many of what are considered Central and Western states, Spanish-speaking people lived in a long time ago. It's we and Europeans who are the interlopers. We came late. So a lot of the lies and the okey-dokes that we're convinced to go for, they hurt us. And the people on the show are simply telling us the truth. And thank you for the time.
All right. Thank you so much for your phone call. Mr. President?
Well, yeah, I mean, the key is, as I stated, we can have difference of opinions, but you can't have different facts. The fact is what the gentleman Terry just said. The fact is the Indians were here first. Those things are facts. And we can try to spin it some kind of way, and which is what this is all. When you have that stuff, that was to create divisiveness between the minorities. Because if the minorities stay divided, then they won't work together and be successful. So all that misinformation is by design, creating this optic of 5 million people a day and all that. That was never happening at that volume. That wasn't happening like it. But they take a picture and then repeat it. You know, AI is powerful. And then the next thing you know, you believe that, just walk. Well, did you see them walking around your streets? Have you seen them just magnitudes 100 just walking down your street? You ain't seen it on your own streets, but you're willing to believe this optic I seen on television that got created. Because I want to create this division without saying, now here are the laws that are in place. Go talk to somebody who works for the state, who controls the benefits. They're going to tell you. No, there's no Latino over here that never worked going to get Social Security. I mean,
and then they're not voting either. That's been proven as well.
and they're not voting either. So you get all that stuff in here, and then, but because you want to create division, if I believe that, then now I'm thinking, well, I'd be better off if these people weren't here because we're competing for the same thing. Well, what they've done is they cut the benefits off to, all the people poverty, because they really at the core of the people making decisions. They don't care about black, Latino, even white people. If you're poor, they just said, you're going to figure it out. We're going to cut your benefits. And that's what we're not holding those people accountable. We're not saying to the person, the Mitch Rowe, hey man, why did you cut off all these child care vouchers? We're not saying that. They want us to argue between, well, I think I would have had one, or my granddaughter would have had one if the Latino hadn't taken it. And the Latino thinks the black person got it. And when in reality, neither one of you got it. Mitch Rowe is over here making that decision. The governor's making that call, and that's what they're doing. And so,
and you're seeing more wealthy people get it for their children.
Because the education voucher system,
exactly.
There's so many things we can point to that are fact. I mean, it's not a difference of opinion. The education voucher system allows somebody who's, making, $500,000 to, hey man, we can get this education voucher and help pay my child to go to Park Tutor or whatever. That's fact. That's not opinion. That's fact. Those are vouchers that are in place. Now, how come we can't take that same money rather than give to rich people that have, making $250,000 plus, and say we're going to help make sure that our children that are at poverty level can get child care? That would make sense.
Exactly.
And that ain't between Latino black people. Somebody stole it. No, that's the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. That's the fact of it.
That's the
Now,
facts.
now you may disagree with vouchers or whatever, or child care and say, I just don't want nobody to have it. Okay, that's your opinion. You don't want anybody to have it. But what would be wrong is, well, we would have it if it wasn't for them people. And that would be wrong because that ain't the deciding factor. That ain't got nothing to do with this.
Well, and Andrew also put, in our chat here, about the fact, and this is fact, that they pay taxes into the system and do not collect Social Security. That is a fact as well. So, that's a fact. So, but I do, certainly, I shared earlier at the top of our show, that we want to pay homage to the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who, as we're here in Black History Month, he is certainly one that I consider part of Black history. And when we look at, I'll call him an icon. When we look at icons such as Reverend Jackson and what he did, I'm not sure how many folks we have right now, such as a Reverend Jackson, left that can actually galvanize a country, if you will, or even a party, if you will, other than Barack Obama.
Oh, I certainly agree with that, Reverend Alexander. And it has saddened my heart that many white people have attacked Jesse Jackson in the midst of his loss of life. When I'm like, he stood up for all people, yes, and he certainly is iconic in terms of our history, in terms of paving the way for others. At the time was being a voice for the voiceless. Yes, and I'm with Denise. Keep hope alive, and so I think his legacy will live on as long as we continue to remind others of that legacy. Don't allow that to die. So that will be on us to do that as a people, because some people won't give him his just due in terms of his impact on the community. Because I agree, he's one of the few people, founder of Push. I mean, these are things that he clearly did because he was concerned about people, was concerned about the least of those, and taking a stand, Reverend Alexander.
Well, and it actually shows an importance as well, and the value that you have when you have someone that does have moral values, okay, and they can be a representative for you even on the international stage. So I think that even lends itself, to the importance, when we're looking at, and I'll say it, when you're looking at certain clergy, where there was Martin Luther King, where you're looking at Reverend Sharpton, when you're looking at Pastor Barber, Senator Warnock, look at, David Green, Reverend Green. You've got so many folks that are doing great works, and it's impactful. And as a people, I don't want us to forget that.
I don't either. I mean, PUSH stands for People United to Save Humanity or to Serve Humanity. And that's what Jesse Jackson did. He is the epitome of that. He was trying to unite people, and he was trying to, serve the common good. Not the rich and famous, not, the haves getting more. He was concerned about those who were suffering and saying, hey, we need to band together and work together. And so he's to be honored and respected for that. He taught me, he actually did teach us that. And again, as I said earlier, I don't believe Barack Obama gets there without a Jesse Jackson paving the way. I mean, I think when it comes back to, for Jesus, there was a John the Baptist. Somebody is preparing the way, and the concept is fortunate, both of them come out of Chicago, so it might be more than just a coincidence that they were working, understanding the importance of serving humanity, and both gentlemen end up doing that.
Well, let me take a moment. I know, there's some special things that you're wanting to do in honor of Reverend Jackson and to celebrate, his legacy. You want to go ahead and share that before we close?
Yeah, as a part of our worship experience on Sunday, we're going to take some time to honor Reverend Jesse Jackson. There'll be a resolution there from the state, and I think that's appropriate that our government recognize Jesse Jackson and his impact. Also, we're working on some, a clip. Hopefully we'll have that. Greetings from a family member, as well as a couple of other items. Because it's important that he's one of our icons. And we can't treat this, because I've been disappointed by, just to be honest, by the local coverage of Jesse Jackson's death.
Mm-hmm.
It barely makes the news in Indianapolis, which is just up down the street from Chicago. And we need to lift this up as a community, because it's a teachable moment for especially our young people to say, well, who is this fellow Jesse Jackson? Well, we need to remind them. We need to inform them. It's a time of, whether it's a discussion at the dinner table, wherever. But we need to remind our young people of somebody who made a difference like Jesse Jackson, and not treat it like, who was he, and keep it moving. We need to pause. And that's what I want. The Lord led me to do this. Okay, we need to pause a minute here and just reflect on that, because it's a teachable moment for all of us, and a reminder for us to reflect, given that, hey, we need to be a people united, and we need to be able to serve humanity. This Rainbow Push thing, well, that was a pretty good idea he had. There's some core things that we need to be doing, and we need to sound the trumpet on that, in my opinion. And so I'm clear that God is saying, okay, you need to sound the trumpet on that. Let's just not let that pass, and then people don't even remember that he died. That they'll think, well, who was he, when he really was a significant figure in our American history and in our Black history. And we should not ignore these people, especially this is February 2, Black History Month. We shouldn't ignore that. So when you put all those things together, Reverend Alexander, I feel like it's the right time, the right thing to do. Certainly, community, all of you are welcome to come on Sunday at 10 o'clock, The Purpose of Life, 3705 West Kessler Boulevard, North Drive, and be a part of it, because he is a part of our Black history. And, I'm sure some listeners out there feel like, well, maybe he wasn't. But, for most of us, we understand he's an important piece of our history.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again. Once again, you can catch our replay tomorrow, our Substack. Everyone, be blessed. We'll see you next week.
The answer is turkey at 3 o'clock. We had to play football.
You've been listening to the weekly town hall meeting, brought to you by
we get off the Alta Vista bus, and we would bring up the leftovers and eat our turkey, leftovers, the caucus, the cranberries, around 8 o'clock at night. I really do understand. Every one of these funny labels they put on you, those of you who are watching this broadcast tonight in the projects, on the corners, I understand. Call you outcast, low down, you can't make it, you're nothing, you're from nobody, subclass, underclass. When you see Jesse Jackson, when my name goes in nomination, your name goes in nomination. I was born in the slum.